Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're celebrating 400 videos with an edition of Ask Robin with the fabulous Mrs. Hood.
Whoop whoop!
Yep, 400 videos is an impressive number that I'm not certain that I thought would reach at the outset of this journey. And this is our third Q&A officially, though we also had a double 10k special, so it's kind of our fourth video together.
And it's great to be back, Robin.
Since the last Q&A, we've done quite a lot on the channel, done lots of fairground, including the bumper car ride, all sorts of other rides and starting to integrate them, the supermarket, my own train, the Flying Knotsman, the museum build, the Daily Bugle, or should be calling it the Brick Nottingham Post, the Zeppelin train. We started the 20,000 bricks under the sea cabinet, which I've got to say, putting the backdrop in with your help was probably the most stressful thing I've ever done for the channel. The sushi restaurant, the cargo wagons and locomotives. Oh, by the way, not because you were involved. You were a great help. It wasn't stressful because of that. It was stressful because it was sticky and very large.
Well, if I could just say, it wasn't quite how I wanted to spend my bank holiday at the weekend.
No, it was very, very stressful. Anyway, yeah, and we've got so much more to do in the coming months and weeks as well. We've got the rest of the fairground to fully integrate, more train wagons, carriages, the mine area to look forward to, more 20,000 bricks under the sea cabinet, including a whale coming up. That'll be good. The cargo area, which is going really well so far. My double modular that I'm designing at the moment, ship builds, harbour facades, sea creatures, and so much more. But anyway, I'm wittering, so I will pass you straight over to the capable hands of the lovely, classy, and kind Mrs. Hood.
Thank you, Robin.
What an introduction, eh?
No, that was a delightful introduction. Thank you, and it is really lovely to be back. I'm going to apologise from the outset. This might be a long one.
Oh,
I've spent the morning trying to edit down the questions you got, and you got fantastic questions and loads of them. So I've got quite a few things to take you through. For those who submitted questions, thank you ever so much.
Yep, thank you.
Again, really fantastic engagement with this. I may have to paraphrase some of your questions because some of them were quite long, and we just want to get through as many of them as possible.
Yep, churn and burn. Yep.
Churn and burn. Brilliant. So, like last time, I've grouped them into some broad headings with questions underneath. So we'll start you off with an easy one.
Okay.
Which is sort of about how you work.
Okay.
So how far ahead do you plan your video schedule and Bricklink orders?
Absolutely miles ahead. This is probably one of the hardest things of running the channel the way I do it, because I do so many original builds. I mean, I'm designing things. I'm buying bricks for things I'm designing now that I haven't even finished designing, that will probably come out in the autumn. I mean, that's how long ahead I'm doing things. The supermarket I designed last summer in that month I had off that we only just finished. And I've been buying bricks kind of for it since to get the best price and to find the harder to find bits that aren't, freely available, in every store. So, it's very hard. Now, there are some that are quite sort of short by comparison. I probably designed the whale in about November or something, and I've been buying the parts for that since. And there are some rail wagons which I might have done, designed in one day and kind of be ready to go with at short notice from parts in my own collection. But that is quite rare. So generally, the parts I'm buying for now are things that you'll be seeing over the next sort of 3-6 months sort of thing. And the things that you'll be watching in the next sort of 1 month or two, I've probably had ready in bags waiting to go for 1 or 2 months, really. And maybe in getting the last final important pieces for. So it's an absolute nightmare. And right now, my build room is absolutely full with boxes, bags, and all sorts, because I'm a bit behind of sorting stuff. And it's an absolute nightmare keeping a track of it all, really. It really is a logistical operation. And all you see is the last beautiful sort of 10% of the way.
Actually, that's a really good segue. I must say that first question was from a brick dreamer, so thank you. The second question, so following on from that, is from Aqua in France. So, with so many big projects at the same time and brick hauls every week, how do you manage your Bricklink wanted lists and keep track of the upcoming packages? Do you have one wanted list per project, or do you just have one big list with every random brick that you need?
So I've many lists on Bricklink, and it's a really good tool for using that. So that's where I do all of my sort of monitoring. I don't have any sort of Excel lists or anything like that outside of Bricklink. And generally, when I'm making a project and getting it onto Bricklink, I might have a specific list for that. Say it's the supermarket list or something. But then when I'm happy that that's the list of things that I want to buy, I then break it into two lists. One's kind of general parts that I can basically get in most stores, just normal bricks, normal slopes, stuff like that. And I just call that bricks and pieces, actually, because if the worst comes to the worst, I'll just buy the last ones from bricks and pieces. And then I have another list called important, and that's for all the stickered pieces or the rare stuff or the stuff that not many people have and that Lego don't produce anymore. And that's the really hard stuff to actually get hold of. So important and general. And then generally when I'm picking a store, I try and get one that's got the most important parts in one place as possible for economy, essentially. But that means I might be buying for about 6, 8, 10 projects over several months at one time, and maybe only getting one important part for, say, one particular project in any one go. So that's why it has to be over so many months, because nobody's got all these parts, quite frankly. And then when I've bought them, and this is where the real discipline comes in, I have to take them off one of those two lists and put them onto just any old list. I call them deleted 1, deleted 2, deleted 3, which basically means that I've bought them and then I don't need to buy them again, obviously. So I don't ever search for bricks on this, but I've got a record of what those bricks were for. And that's imperative because they will all have their comment on, say, supermarket next to them. So then when I get the part and I go, what on earth did I buy this orange brick for? I know that I bought it for the supermarket, and then I can put it in the supermarket bag and then I can delete it off my deleted list. So it's a very rigid step process, because if I don't do it like that, then I end up with bricks I don't know what they're for. I end up with things missing and all sorts. And even then, even with the best will in the world, I still end up trying to build something and not being able to find pieces because I've either put it in the wrong bag or maybe the seller missed it from the order. That's one that can happen. Absolute nightmare.
So when we see you for a brick haul get a big bag of mixed bricks and and you're saying, oh, this is for this is for this, do you have a list there to sort of help prompt you? Because I just have no idea how you identify all these different things. And
that's partly my brain, but partly also the order has got pictures of everything that's in that order. So I know what should be in the box. And then for the parts that are definitely interesting, so I have a review the order before the brick haul, and then I sort of look at it and go, oh, that orange bit's interesting. What set did that come from originally? And what am I going to use it for? Though a lot of them I'll be looking forward to, so I know exactly what they're going to, because I've been trying to search for them for a while. So, but then the more boring pieces, I might say I've got 10, black plates. What are they for? It might be 6 are going towards a ship, 2 are going towards, another build, and 2 are going towards another. And I have to do that after cleaning them, put them in 3 different places.
So when I go into the build room and it looks like a chaotic mess, I shouldn't judge you, because there is actually a very rigorous process.
There is. And you can't move stuff when I'm halfway through that rigorous process.
I wouldn't dare.
Not that you would. Not that you would.
Dare touch anything. Right. So next question. This is a number of them together, and this is about your sort of mock design process.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting up with one from our good friend Just Add Bricks. So what drives your inspiration with coming up with weird and wonderful designs for buildings?
I think, it's all sorts of different things. Obviously, you just see something in real life or whatever. And I have started, actually, as you'll be testament to, taking pictures of real life buildings that go, oh, that's interesting. That would work well in Lego or something like that. Though I don't tend to actually follow that through, to be honest. I would say the majority is inspired by pieces. So, for example, you might find, let's think of something like the supermarket. There's absolutely loads of really good quality stickered pieces for the supermarket, including from that sticker pack, that sticker sheet pack. So basically I thought, well, these are just too good to pass up. I can really see these stuck to window pieces. And therefore the whole thing will think, well, I've got to have window pieces in to accommodate the stickers. I need to have this, that, and the other in my store. Wouldn't it be funny if I had loads of toilet roll as well? So that needs to go in, so I need a build for that. And then it kind of goes from there. So I think for that one, the idea for the supermarket came before the building that it went into, and even before I decided to put it instead of the corner garage as part of that modular. And it came from that sticker sheet. but it might be like when I did Fast Food Corner, the whole thing from Fast Food Corner started with those two juniors panels that kind of make up the ground floor of the fast food establishment, because I thought these are really clunky, but they're quite fun. I wonder if I can use them well. And from that, everything else snowballed. It wasn't even going to be a modular to start with.
Yeah. Just a creative brain.
Yeah.
And question from Nedam81, who also is a member of your channel. Is it the same when you get inspiration for facades as well?
Yeah, I think facades are very useful because I build against all my walls, so I don't just hide the walls, but it allows you to do an idea that's quite external without having to bother with the insides. Because the problem with modulars is you spend so much time on doing the insides and then you just cover it all up, so it's a completely sealed box. So what I really like about facades, and if you think about something like the Space Tower, for example, you get to have all these scenes, kind of very small ones, without having to kind of finish them off, without having to sort of put backs on them or anything like that, and see them all. I mean, a hospital's a great idea for that. You kind of want a big scanner, you want somebody having an examination, you want some people in beds sort of lying around and stuff. And it just allows you to do all those things and enjoy it as well. And that's why I quite like the second standing hall is arguably my favourite place to view the city from, because you get all those cross-sectional buildings like in the sushi restaurant and so on that are, I think, the most fun. Closed buildings are really, really bad. And even the really thin facades, then you get to do something really fun on the outside without having to kind of finish it. You can say, oh, that's a factory, dot, without having to then make a factory, which you might not be that interested in.
Yeah. I mean, I must admit, I sort of, it does seem to me that when you choose your facades, they're much more recognisable for me in buildings that I've seen around, and that does tend to make me think that you're looking at your environment and saying, oh, I'll do that as a facade.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I really like street scenes because you don't need to build a building around them and you've got the sort of funny scene. So you want internal funny scenes to be visible. I mean, the weakness of the Space Tower being against the wall, for example, though it wasn't really designed to be there. It was going to be on the standing hole, but it's just too tall.
Too tall, yeah.
And if I nudge it, it'll go flying. Is that you can't see all those scenes. And there are some really fun scenes in there. Same with the racing tower in a way. So, I mean, who can see that guy getting blown in the wind tunnel in the racing tower, the Ferrari, Leaning Tower of Ferrari? You can't really see that now, and that's a bit of a shame. So in a way, I think we need more open buildings, and that's why I don't try and close in all of my buildings like some people do. I mean, some people close them in and don't have any scenes on the inside because there's no point. And I kind of see that argument.
Yeah, well, you started off with the casino a long time ago, and you can't see that at all. So,
and I've probably seen it twice, and everyone else has seen it once. Yeah.
So I'm going to take three questions together now, because they do all link. So from Mark Duffy, how long do you spend designing your mocks before you feel it's ready to build? From Soxophone, how long does it take you to go from design phase on LDD to gather the pieces for the Bricklink orders and then make the videos? And for James Really Long username, only 50 characters long, how many tries does it take you to get a final design?
Okay. So it varies, as will anything. But something like the supermarket, I probably did about 13, 14 different LDD files where basically I've got several versions maybe in the same file, but it's getting too big. So I kind of lose the three before, keep the current one, and then make sort of three more. Because if you've seen any of my LDD designs, I usually keep all the old drafts so I can sort of go back and use previous examples if they're better. So that might be about 50 versions, say, at the supermarket. Now, they might have very small changes. It might be I've moved a door from one wall to another wall, but the insides are completely the same or something. But it's good to sort of stand back and kind of look at it and see kind of what the benefits are, and also think about where it's going in the city. So I would say the supermarket took me probably therefore 50 sessions, let's say, because each one probably represents a new session, and each session could be half an hour. Oh, there's the SSP. So yeah, each session could be half an hour, or it could be 3 or 4 hours. So you sort of do the maths on that. It could be a very long time built up. And then, having said that, if I'm doing a train cargo carriage, I mean, I've done one that I won't tell you what the theme is of it just this week. I probably spent 2 sessions, probably about an hour each. And in between those was me actually trying to sort of mock it up with rainbow brick in between to see if the mechanics bit actually worked. And I had to tweak it, and I showed Mrs. Hood.
Oh, was this the thing you showed me
Yeah,
yesterday?
yeah,
Yes.
and
I
you
like
commented on it and said, "Oh, I would do that rather than this," and I incorporated that. And then basically, it's sort of done in about 2 hours. Now I need to buy the bricks, so that's the middle question.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just go on the list with all the others. So when I get them, it's kind of with the stores that I pick, random whether they had the things in. So it might be that if I'm lucky and I get somebody who's got a lot of important parts and they've got all the parts for this particular project, that this could be ready to go sooner than something I designed before. But it's basically when do the parts, when does the last part arrive effectively? Then it's ready to go. So and also then it's about the time spent to do each video, which dictates largely what I do. If I'm pushed because my week's going wrong, it might be cargo wagon time. if I've got a full day to spend at something, it might be fairground time, so that also influences things a great deal. But I spend a lot of time doing the bigger mocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great deal of time.
And I think that's what people may not necessarily appreciate. When you do have time off from Lego, like when you have your month off in the summer, actually, it's not like you're not doing Lego. You are actually spending that time thinking and planning and designing, and you're just free from having the commitment of doing 3 videos a week, which actually just gives you a lot of time to do that planning and thinking. And
work plus 3 videos equals very little, if any, design time, depending on what's going on, because you have to process a Bricklink order afterwards. Wash it, then sort it, then bag it, and all the rest of it. So it's quite a commitment outside what you see. 20-minute video is a day's work, maybe.
Well, I mean, I do say that you've got 2 jobs. You've got your job, but actually, I mean, YouTube has become a second job. You spend hours and hours on it every week.
And if I didn't enjoy it, it would be awful.
Yeah.
But I do, so it's all right. We're safe.
We're safe. We're good. Don't worry. Don't worry, Robin Hood Brick fans. He's continuing to do it. Right, so just moving on slightly. So this is a set of questions about your city design process.
Okay.
And this first question was a really popular one. So it was posed by Polar Bricks, but then we had Rich 777300, which I think is a Boeing airplane, I know, from my Rolls-Royce days. So, Rich, I wonder if you have anything to do with Rolls-Royce in Derby.
Oh, not Derby. Brick Derby, that is.
Brick Derby. And then we've got Amanda Ponvier, like this question as well. So the question is, how did you plan out the early stages of the city and work out where roads, rails and other areas you wanted where? How did you plan out the level changes? It seems you had a lot planned out before the early videos. And now you've built so much of the city, is there any part of the planning you wish you'd done differently? Would you change any of it if you could with hindsight, which is now very difficult or impossible to do, given the fact you've built so much?
Okay, so I think it's a good question because it's a very underappreciated skill, I suppose, sort of city planning in a way. And I mean, in real life, it's a thing as well, because all these roads and rails don't fit together that well, quite frankly, or that easily, and look really good and complement each other. So that's what I spent the most time doing. You're right, road, rail and monorail. And the monorail is the least forgiving of all because of just the size of the pieces. It's very inflexible indeed. So I amongst other things, I used the program called Blue Bricks. I'm sure there are better ones on there on the internet now. It's a free program and it's quite clunky. It's very old. It's almost like it was written for DOS or something. But it does the basics of just base plates and track pieces for both systems, and you can kind of play around with that to get experiment with different layouts. But I don't think you need something like that. But what you do need to do is consider that where all these main things are going. I mean, even with mine, you've got sort of dead end roads and things like that are, a bit incongruous perhaps. But, you can't get it perfect from all angles. But I think it is important to consider where you're going to have, say, big things like your rows and modulars, or like was said in the question, different levels. So I spent a lot of time doing that entire first section. So when you walk in the Lego room, the entire section to your left, which is the first area I did, I planned very well The middle section, sort of in theory, and then the right section, really not at all. Indeed, the entire second sort of part of the subway, with the second subway station, was ad hoc much later. So I just planned which whole sections I wanted to be on lower levels, because they needed to be on different table levels, because I have adjustable, extendable telescopic legs on my tables to keep them all perfectly level and perfectly aligned with each other, and that works really, really well. But yeah, you have to pre-plan that. You can't just sort of wing it and go later. I just really like it if this section was a bit lower.
Yeah.
So I think planning the roads, the rail, and the monorail with buildings in mind, but not specific buildings, because you can reorientate buildings or reorder them or even change them, quite frankly. It is Lego after all. But you can't change necessarily what track pieces will fit where. And the corners for track pieces are incredibly hard to incorporate as well. And all points as well. So the what do you call them in America? Points.
Junctions?
Yeah, track junctions. I'm forgetting the word. But anyway, they're really hard to incorporate. So in all of my planning, I went down from having quite a complicated track setup to a more simple one, to a more simple one, to a more simple one. And I got rid of, even the crossover between two different tracks to just have two basic loops, because it's so inefficient when you just put any kinks in a track. It has the sort of effect all over the city, effectively, bringing everything else out of alignment. So it's really hard. And then you've got to have areas that look good. So having buildings on both sides of the track, you'll see a lot of cities have just track right round the outside of the table, because they've just thought, I can't incorporate this into my city, so I'll just have it right round the outside. And that's fine, but it's quite limited. What makes mine quite good is that it kind of goes through elements of the city, and so does the monorail, and that's really good because that goes behind buildings, pops out, in between two buildings or something, disappears for a bit and then reappears, and that looks absolutely great. So I was trying to incorporate all my train and rail and tram and all the rest of it to go under things, through things, round things the whole way. So.
And that's very sort of naturalistic for a
Exactly.
British city as well, isn't it? Because, a lot of our rail infrastructure was put in the sort of Victorian age, and then cities have grown around it. So
yes, and with countries more like the US, they've got a lot more space than we have. So everything is in straight lines. And so a lot of those sort of straight line cities are quite realistic in a way, in their own way, but they're not realistic for European cities.
Yeah. Right. I will cut you off because we've got lots more questions. I might just wave my hand at you if you're
Red
being
flag,
being a bit too long. Right. So this is from Clutch Power Productions, and it's a question about, would you ever consider redesigning your city? It says, I find myself changing up my city, but mine is nowhere near as intricate or planned out as yours. So I think, we've possibly started to see this with you. You're now in a one in, one out position with modulars.
Yeah.
So, is that something we can expect more from, moving things around?
I think ultimately, yes, that's inevitable. But I kind of have a rule that I've said before about not going back and redoing things. So if it's to get something else new in that I need to swap things around, I think that's not so bad, and that's what we did just now. But it's quite hard to redo things because of things like the different levels. It might be fine to sort of rip out one line of shops, for example, and replace them with a different line of shops, and I may well do that. It might be that ultimately I have no official modulars, for example. That's sort of a very lofty, distant aspiration, I suppose. But I quite like these sort of familiar sets as well. So it's not necessarily something that I have to do. But I can't change where the marina is.
Yeah. It's not realistic for what you're going to do. Every Christmas, you're like, ooh, the new mock. You're going to end up getting all these modulars as they come out.
Well, I might buy them. I'm not saying I wouldn't buy them. Just wouldn't necessarily have them in the city. But I can't move the marina, for example.
Yeah.
And going back very briefly to the last question, which bit I'd redo. I don't like the River Trent. It's too narrow. But that came from me doing the castle and having the distance of being the width of the drawbridge to go across to Major Oak Hill. And the fact is that meant that on ground level I had a really, really tiny little river that looks a bit pokey. But it also fits on the fact that after I had a certain number of base plates in the room, I think it's 19 long, I had about 8 studs left, and I thought, cool, I have an 8 stud wide river. So that's why it's like it is, but it doesn't look that great. But you know, it's a compromise, because otherwise, if I made it a whole base plate wide, it looked great as a river. But wow,
Yeah.
then I'd lose about 3 buildings somewhere else.
I mean, I'm just sort of thinking back for when you did start designing the city, and I just remember it was designed to the stud originally, wasn't it? And
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and I remember you had something where you just slightly miscalculated, and you had to move everything, and it was just for 1 or 2 studs.
yeah, that is sadly true. I mean, that's sort of what I'm going to have to do with these modulars I've just put in. If they're going to stay there, they're all going to have to move about 2 studs. One stud to let the tram by, and another to accommodate some sort of adverts on the back or something. Which isn't the problem when it's 2 buildings, but you know, when it's a whole strip of your room, you don't want to have to do that. Let's face it. So that's where planning prevents issues. Let's say.
That's the polite way of saying that phrase. Right, this is something from Kevin, which you may have sort of talked about a little bit about your train tracks, and if you have, sort of maybe think of another example. God, you can tell I was interviewing yesterday, can't you? I spent 4 hours interviewing people yesterday, and was like, let's have a different example. You've used that one already. So, was anything planned in the early stages of the city that you wanted to build, but was ultimately scrapped for something else later on, or has yet to be built?
Oh yes, I mean, I've had lots of plans. I mean, one that I still quite like the idea of, but I just don't have the room. Was a racetrack. And even that you can't do a good job on, but because I mean, a racetrack could take half your room, I think. But like my airport, which I think was a really successful idea of using space well, basically on that I've onto about 2 base plates. I managed to get the essence of an entire airport, even with the nose of a plane coming out and one taking off through the wall. That's really successful. So I was going to do the same thing with a racetrack, and maybe have, like, say, a corner coming out of the wall, a bit of a straight, maybe with a pit lane, and then another corner taking it back into the wall. So it kind of looks like we're looking at the very sort of edge of a racetrack. And then you could have a few race cars, obviously the pit lane, the crowds, the cameras, all the action, without having to do the entire rest of the track and more cars. But even that, you think, well, minimum it's got to be 4 base plates, isn't it? Absolute minimum. And even then the pit lane's not that good either. And 4 base plates for one idea, I don't have anything that's that indulgent, pretty much. So, you know, I think I have to be more sparing with my space.
Brilliant. So, a question from Michael, who is a member of the channel. Are there any awesome scenes or items hidden in the city that have not been featured in your videos? I think the answer to that has to be no, because you've pretty much shown every
I try and
section.
show everything. I've got a massive queue of little fun scenes to actually show as well. It's not a lack of ideas that I suffer from. It's a lack of sort of time to actually show them in a good way. I suppose there might be a couple of Easter eggs hidden around that people spot in the comments, but there definitely aren't many at all. I think I'll leave that one there.
Yes, I think they tend to be the scenes that
Less child friendly.
yes.
Let's say.
Get watching. There are some fun, just a couple, but there are some
Oh,
funny
not
funny
many,
things
yeah,
in it.
but there are some funny things, yeah.
And then this is a really good question to wrap up this city design section. So this is from JT Oz from Australia. What advice do you have for people looking to start their own city?
Good day. For advice, I would say just get going, really. I think you learn through doing, really. I mean, I did some very basic cities before doing Brick Nottingham. They were much, much smaller and much less grand, all on one level, all completely normal, not paved pavements or anything, not any of the stuff you really see in Brick Nottingham. And in doing that, I sort of thought, right. And I sort of learned about how things go together and how the levels work, like having base plates on different levels really would work, because a base plate's the same depth resting on a plate as a plate is attached to it. So I think just get on with it, really. There's no sort of magic formula. And in doing it, you'll think, oh, well, that looks really good, or that looks really bad. I need to do something a lot differently. So I think I would say just get on with it, really, and then be prepared to take it apart. The fact that I'm doing this on a grand scale is because I've kind of gained a lot of that experience, and I put a lot of time into it. It's literally that. Yeah. So I don't.
Yeah, you were playing around with different Lego City ideas for a good 2 years before you started your channel. Yes. I think.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably right. And I was in between. I was designing things I didn't yet own as a sort of theory, sort of to see what could be done. So I sort of played around with the idea of a subway. It wasn't the actual subway that I ended doing, but doing that. And I thought, well, that's doable. So I sort of had quite a good plan for that entire first session, sort of segment that we talked about before I even had bought the bricks to actually do it. So I had planned out my marina, for example, because I didn't like the way in one of my trial cities that if you got a big ship, it was towering above even buildings that were next to the marina. And you thought, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't happen in real life because obviously they're in the water and they're much lower down. So probably one of the first sort of things I did by trying reality was find out that I want ships to be lower
Yeah.
than ground level.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that. And it looks so much better as a result.
So, I mean, I think back to your previous Lego room, which was Lego Room 2. I mean, you had quite a lot of stuff built for that. Has that all been translated into Brick Nottingham, or have you still got some bits left over that's yet to come?
Yeah, I've got a few things that are official builds. So I've got the remnants of 60097, the Tad Square set. I've got the mines still to put in, but they're just official builds really. Mock stuff I think's all in. I don't think I've got any sort of old mocks that have not migrated.
Yeah. And I think it's been quite interesting as well that when you've sort of picked up the mocks you did before, you've done an awful lot of work on them because you've just improved, your
I had
your
an
design
airport
ability.
that was sort of, a quarter the size of the current one, and it was much closer to the original set. And I thought, no, a lot of them didn't make it essentially.
So it didn't actually save you that much time.
No, but it's a different standard really. If you're trying to do a sort of 6 foot by 3 foot city, it's a very different sort of brief to trying to fill quite a large room. Let's face it.
I got you. Right, next section.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting question actually about the Lego ideas process.
Okay.
So this is from Mr. Cool 5614, and Mr. Cool asks 3 questions, but all somewhat related. Are you able to speak more on the behind the scenes process for folks who reached 10,000 votes on Lego ideas? Does Lego reach out to you at all during the under review phase? And then have you been contacted by Bricklink about getting your fast food corner project added to the designer program?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's no information on this at all. So when I went into this with 10,000 votes on Fast Food Corner, I didn't know what to expect at all. Essentially, they ask you to fill out some form with your details and so on, basic details, and send any sort of design files you've got for your project. So you send those off, and then literally you hear nothing. It's very, very underwhelming. You would sort of expect there might be some dialogue of you to sort of talk about it or anything like that, and you hear nothing pretty much. There is a second document they asked you to fill out, which is kind of an interview, but it's like they're set questions, and you just sort of, how long have you've probably seen the emails they send out about them, how long have you been into Lego, what do you use for inspiration, that sort of thing. But they're the same questions for everyone, and you can write as little or as much as you like for that. And then they just publish it pretty much verbatim. So, there's not much there. And then you hear nothing. And I sort of inquired as to whether they needed anything. No, they didn't. And that was that. And then you hear the announcement exactly the same time as anyone else. So it's very underwhelming. You would have thought there'd be some sort of engagement or some sort of feedback. I mean, I just wanted a little certificate or something that said, hey, congratulations.
Yeah, did you not even get a certificate?
Nothing.
That's really bad.
You don't even get a letter. You get an email. So I suppose you could print out. I mean, but it's not that amazing or anything. So I think they should say. If you're old enough to remember, there used to be a magazine called the Lego magazine or something like that. It's the official one. It might have even been called Bricks and Pieces or something. I can't remember. And anyway, if you sent in something, it would be a photograph in those days. You'd have to post a photograph in. Anyway, they sent you back a little badge. It was just a pin badge, and it said Master Builder on it.
Yes.
And it was, kids got one and I got one. It was great. And you thought, yay, I'm a master builder. Hey, where's my master builder badge? I think you should get one for that.
This is much
10K
more impressive.
Club or something.
I was going to say, you've had 10,000 people vote for your project.
So anyway, it's very underwhelming. There's no engagement at all. You don't hear anything afterwards. And Bricklink haven't been in touch about Fast Food Corner. The panels on the corner would be really annoying. That's partly why I'm having trouble with the instructions, is because I've got to do an alternate build for the corner that doesn't involve those very rare panels for the ground floor, which would just be, basically normal windows. I don't think they're going to do modulars as part of that either, just because I mean there's a million and one good modulars out there.
Well, I think what we're getting from this is a loud message to Lego. You could do better, Lego.
I think so. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but you know,
Give
you are
people
really
a badge.
somebody like me is really spurring on the Lego, agenda. And unless I join their sort of propaganda program, the whatever they call it, then and then you have to sort of receive the new sets and be nice about them. Then you don't really get any credit for helping anything along, which I think is a bit sad. I think they could engage a lot better.
Yeah.
Why don't they ask somebody like me about feedback on bricks and pieces or something? Because the new system's not that great either. Anyway, just a point for them.
Yeah.
Minor moan.
But to be honest, I thought that was a really good question
No,
to
yeah,
raise
very
because,
good
as you
question.
say, there's very
There's nothing
little
out there. No.
Yeah. Right, a few questions about the Lego room, and these can be a little bit more quick fire.
Yep, cool.
So, how many tables are there in your Lego room?
About 20.
What is the length, width, and height of your Lego room? And I appreciate you probably know this more in studs than anything
Yeah.
else.
So
base
I think
plates.
it's either 17 or 19 long, and I think it's 11 wide, but with an extra sort of 5x4 bit for the harbour. So what's that? 190 plus 20, so 210 base plates, and then the height is, I don't know, normal room height, I guess. What's that? 9 feet, 6? I don't know, 8 feet.
But it's high enough for you to hang things on the ceiling without requiring a ladder.
Yeah, and I'm tall.
Yes, you are tall. How do you get from one viewing hole to the next?
Crawl on my knees again and again. I've worn through jeans.
Is crawling under the tables difficult?
I tell you what's difficult is you do like a long session on something like the fairground where you're doing like basically squats to pick up pieces off the floor because you're surrounded by different boxes of pots and things like that and getting things and stuff like that. And by the end, you're knackered, you're sore, your back's tired. But it's not bad just to do one or two, but in summer it gets quite hot as well.
I live in fear of when I'm invited into the Lego room to see something and I have to crawl, particularly into the furthest standing hole, and then stand up, and I just think I'm going to hit something. I'm going to be told off. I'm going to have broken
I've
something.
never told you off for hitting
you
anything.
haven't, but you sort of...
But you do feel self-conscious about tucking your arms in. But I do too. And I've knocked that space tower I mentioned earlier. I knocked that over
Yes.
onto the floor. I was not impressed, but I did it. So that's partly why it's not on the edge of the standing hole anymore.
I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't tell me off, but I think you'd just look at me with
Well,
such
of course.
disappointment that I wouldn't be able to take it.
I looked at myself with disappointment when I did it to myself. So yeah, you're probably right.
Right, more questions. You had more questions than I was comfortable with about, do you ever think about moving house?
No,
So,
we
Then-
like our house. We're in probably the best room that we're ever going to realistically get for Lego in our house. Unless we don't have a lounge anymore, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think I want to happen. So we've got the best room in a house we're not moving from. So that's not
it.
going to happen. That's that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
The only way I could ever, if we were in America and you could build a massive Lego barn, on spare land, it just doesn't exist. We can't build a barn. There's no spare land. We're in a congested country. So unless this somehow goes commercial one day, in which case we're really going to need to up the income, it's never going to happen. So that's the room we've got. That's why we've got the cabinet as well.
Exactly. Well, actually, this is a question from Santi. What happens when you run out of room for builds? That's the cabinet.
We've got the
isn't it?
floor. We've
Yeah.
got replacing stuff. We can do the second pass and things and do things we weren't happy with better, or even replace the official modulars. There's all sorts of things we can do. I want to do an Arctic scene, but that's why we bought the 20,000 bricks under the sea cabinet. So, we've got a load more real estate now, and you underestimate how big that is. It's huge. That's going to be like a whole third of the Lego room in a way. It's just vertical. When I show you that top shelf, there are 3 more shelves, and there'll be all the backs and sides, and it's going to be massive.
But rest assured, people, if we win the lottery and do move house, then, I think it's undoubted there would be more space for Lego.
Yeah, I suppose if one day we win the lottery and move to a millionaire's mansion, then the Lego suite, as it will become, would be spectacular, perhaps. But nothing's going to happen there, unfortunately. I'd love a bit more room, but I mean, wouldn't we all?
Hey, do you know something? If we won the lottery, I would be delighted and very supportive of you having extra space.
Yes, of course.
There we go. How do you keep your Lego city dust free?
The best technique for keeping your Lego dust free is keeping the door shut at all times and keeping, the free flow of air out of it, to be honest. And that makes it a bit claustrophobic when it's hot. But 90% of dust is people and pet created. So if you just keep it sort of sealed off from the rest of your house. Now, that isn't possible if you have Lego in your bedroom or something like that. And if I did that, it would get dusty. And my Lego, the limited sort of Star Wars Lego I have on top of my cabinets and stuff in my build room gets very dusty, quite frankly. There's no two ways about it. And I have to dust it with a Hoover, with the brush setting on soft, and a duster and brushes. Paint brushes are good, just to sort of brush it all off. And there's no other way of doing it, really. So in a Lego city that size, you really have to control the entire room rather than try and clean it too often, because it's just too big.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, I think just so people can feel sorry for you, it's a very warm room anyway, isn't it? Yeah. And in the summer, it's not like you can have the windows open. So you literally, you suffer for your art.
I suffer for my art, yes.
Do you ever let any other people other than me in your Lego room?
Not as a rule.
Is there a chance for a build desk and storage system tour video?
I have done a brief one before as part of, I think it was underground expansion video with room tour or something. But generally speaking, I have all my bits specifically in project bags like we discussed earlier. So to show you most of my collection would be to show you everything that's coming up for the next sort of 6 months. So I can't really do that. So now I've actually moved all my bags. So I just keep things in bags, all the sort of spare parts that I have from other sets that I've sort of taken apart or something. So I could technically show that. It's not that interesting. I've got about 4 sort of plastic totes that each have plastic bags and little cardboard boxes in them, sort of neatly arranged. It's a good system for me, but it's not that crazy spectacular, really. And the rest that is the mess is all the boxes which have got project bags and things like that in them. So there'll, be a bag with just pieces in with maybe a post-it note on it saying what it is, just everywhere. So I couldn't really tell you that.
So if we ever had a really bad fight and I could go in there and move some post-its around.
Well, post-its probably wouldn't screw me over too much because I'd probably recognise them. But if you just sort of poured all the pieces into a big pile in the middle of the room, that would just be a nightmare.
That's divorce.
Yeah, that is divorce. Yeah, that's divorce level.
Right. These questions were from, I'm just going to read out some names because we didn't do it at the time. So it's from Lefevre, Evening at Evan, Victor, J Mate, Flynn Jameson, Santi Bricks and Radek. Right. Questions now about your secret identity.
Oh, do I have a secret identity?
You do have a secret identity. So first one, can we get a face reveal? Would be nice to meet the guy between the voice and the hands. That's from Tiny Bricks.
100k, that's what it's always been. 100k subscribers, full face reveal.
It's always been, hasn't it?
Yep.
Have your voice or hands ever been recognised when you're out and about? That's from Craig.
We joke about this, though they haven't yet. No. I keep thinking I'll bump into somebody that's actually watching a Robin Hood Bricks video on a bus or something, but I haven't seen that yet either, no.
And we went out for a walk around the block the other day and Robin had his Robin Hood Bricks t-shirt on and it was very hot and he kept his jacket zipped up.
Well, it's like Superman, you see. If everyone knows your identity, then, well, God knows, you'll get people knocking on your door, presumably.
Do the people you work with know that you're on YouTube?
That would be a weird thing to bring up when I'm on a sort of Zoom call with people. If I was talking about a particular engagement and then I suddenly brought up I was a YouTube Lego presenter, I don't think that would that would be weird. So it doesn't, only because it would be odd. But a few of my friends have clocked it.
Yeah, you've got one friend who sort of went, "Are you Robin Hood Bricks?"
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of friends from home know who I am. We've got your friends with kids who watch, who are viewers and all the rest of it. So people do know, but I don't go around telling people. but that's, as you probably worked out, not the kind of guy I kind of am. So, you know,
Yeah. Does being an accountant help with in less obvious ways than with building brick?
just with frugality, being careful with money, getting a good deal. Even though obviously my Lego budget's a bit bigger than some people's, it's still, I'd still try and save pennies on pieces. I won't buy something that's overpriced in my mind. So, I suppose it's more that I'm analytical, which makes me a good finance person. I'm not really an accountant, but anyway, a good finance person. But that also makes me good at designing and kind of doing the mechanics of even the sort of structural stuff, I suppose. So I suppose being analytical is a useful skill to have with Lego, I think.
Yeah. Question from Craig, actually from me. What's it like living with a Lego YouTuber? I mean, I'll say actually, I've always said I'm very proud of Robin, but he works incredibly hard at it. So no, it's just I'm very proud of him.
Oh, that's nice.
That's all right. And I sometimes feel bad when you come out and you say, "What do you think about this?" And I say, "Oh, you could tweak that or that," and you go back and
I do appreciate that. To be fair, I'd much rather you were candid than sycophantic sort of thing.
But I suppose the biggest thing is being supportive of the channel as long as it doesn't spread too far out of its assigned spaces.
Well, that's it. No Lego is allowed out of the two Lego areas of the Lego room and the Lego build desk sort of area. So as long as that's satisfied, I think we're cool, aren't we?
Yeah. Although it is clearly catching because I've got a little bit more Lego in my study.
It's creeping into your sphere, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm quite interested in the Queer Eye Lego set.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Hood's got her eye on Queer Eye. Yeah.
So I think
the Queer Eye Loft or whatever it's called.
Yeah. It's
you know all their names, don't you?
Of course I do.
And the dog. What's the dog called?
Oh, you've got Bruni, something like that. Anyway, there we go. There are a number of different dogs in Queer Eye.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. So some questions now about future projects.
Okay.
And again, this is a little bit quickfire, I think. So, any thoughts on building an underworld universe below the tables? Maybe a mining project revealing an ancient city.
Kind of. So the corner of the room that's currently got the rides waiting to be incorporated into the fairground, that whole area is going to have a mine at the end, and it's going to be a 2-level table, kind of like the subway is on the other side. So in the under level, there'll be underground stuff, which I haven't really decided what it's going to be. I was thinking of maybe power miners and stuff like that, but on the surface, it'll be, city mining stuff with normal buildings sort of running up to that. So yeah, that will be some. I was going to do the 20,000 bricks under the sea in the Lego room originally, before the cabinet idea. So I do actually have underneath the harbour some table tops kind of on the floor. So that area can be used for something at some point. Could do my Arctic build there because I'm planning an Arctic build at some point. So there's loads of expansion room. I mean, also, once I've got all the stuff that's under the tables on top of the tables, then effectively I've got that space as well. So yeah, there are plans for that sort of thing. I'm sure I'll do some underground sort of ruin scenes or discovery scenes as well. And I've got some very small underground scenes to do kind of underneath areas like the Krusty Krab. There's a bit there that I can do. There's a bit under the River Trent and stuff that I'm going to fill absolutely every space.
So people don't have to worry.
People do worry when they see a room that's 80% full, but it's probably only about 70% full. And 30% is a lot of time, and we've been at this for nearly 3 years now.
Yeah.
Is it 3 years? I think so. In May. I started in May anyway.
But I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 years. Because you started before lockdown, and that's gone on forever.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have plans to integrate Ninjago city sets into your Lego city?
No, they're awesome. But I kind of figured they were so awesome I didn't want to change them, and therefore I'll just have 3.5 base plates, is it they're up to now, of the same stuff as everyone else. So I made the painful decision not to buy them. Now they're worth a fortune. Kind of part of me wishes I had, and I could have put them somewhere else.
Well, we can't buy everything.
No, and we can't buy everything. So, whatever. So no, I don't, but I do like them.
Good. Given current events, can you build an Octane depot fuel heist?
Technically. Maybe that's what the robbers on the train are after. It's not the gold, they're after the Octane fuel. Exactly. Yeah.
Can you build a Lego bus and new station?
No room for new stations if you mean train. Bus station, watch this space.
Oh, really? Cool. Okay. Will you build a football stadium?
Nope, too big. Too wasteful of space. And just to do the edge and the facade, I don't think, even then it's taking up too much wall space. So no, I don't think I will.
And this is sort of future projects. This is from Tom and Jack Jarvis. I'm sorry, Tom and Zach Jarvis. There we go. I got that right. Basically, I will summarize saying they love the fairgrounds. They love the stuff you're doing. They appreciate it, but get on with the fairground.
The problem with the fairground is not that I don't like it or I'm not engaged with it. I am. It's probably the thing I'm most engaged in, and I want to see it all whizzing and going with all the crowds in more than anyone else, I think. But the problem is with the fairground is that if I've got say 2 hours to make a video just for the filming time, if I do something like a rail wagon, I can definitely get it done and know I can. But in that, I might end up with about 3 minutes footage in 2 hours of work. So really, I need a full day because then I know that I'll have enough footage to actually show you a video's worth. Otherwise, we might end up missing whole videos just because, well, not enough got changed to sort of show you as a whole video. So when I do a fairground video at the moment of the installations, it represents a whole day. So I need a clear day to do it, basically. So when I say I might be able to do a video, it's sort of an aspiration to spend a whole day in the Lego room. But if that doesn't happen, then guess what? It's not going to be that. So I do plan to do that, but whole days, if work's busy, on top of the 3, videos, it's quite difficult. So it's not a lack of enthusiasm, believe me. Quite the opposite. It's real life.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, our next section is broadly about YouTube, actually. So first one from Kevin. If you didn't have a YouTube channel, where do you think your city layout would be today and your passion for Lego in general?
It would be smaller. It would be less detailed because of all your wonderful suggestions and amendments, and less good as a result. And I probably would have done a lot. I mean, part of the reason for doing the channel is to drive me to keep doing more. That's why I sort of keep up with the 3 videos a week, even though sometimes it's tempting not to. Is to keep me going, really, because otherwise, like anything, you'll just sort of drift a bit. So it gives me a lot of structure. So it'd be smaller, way behind, and less quality. So this kind of works for me as well. This Lego journey, I'm really enjoying it, and I know you guys are too. So it's kind of mutual.
Yeah,
it's cool. Let's keep doing it.
I mean, I don't think you ever envisaged that actually you'd A, have your own Lego community, but B, actually it would be such a two-way conversation.
No, you're right, and I didn't appreciate that some things would be quite as cool as they are, quite frankly, because doing things like the Zeppelin train or the underground train is not directly, you didn't suggest that, but you give me the confidence to go out and do it and push the envelope, basically. So that's really good. Really good.
And who would have thought, you'd have bedoings and super secret police.
Woo woo.
And all your catchphrases. Who'd have thought it? Question from Tim. Does YouTube turn a profit after paying for all the Lego?
Not even close. Yeah.
It helps, but it's not.
Oh, well, it helps contribute. It all helps. It gives me the confidence to spend on things that I think are a bit frivolous if I was just doing it for myself. So, when I sort of say I've indulged in something or got several printed parts when maybe one has sufficed, or rare older parts, it definitely gives me the confidence to do that. But, people say, oh, why don't you quit your job? And because I'm not making even £1 profit yet. So, no, I can't. It's nowhere near big enough.
So if your channel got big enough, though, would you be willing to be a full-time YouTuber? That's from John.
I don't think so. I quite like the balance I've got right now, really. I quite like working. I quite like this. I don't think I'd want to do, a video a day or something. It's a bit too intrusive then. And I think quality would suffer then as well, because then what are you talking about? Just going to a shop and buying something or getting home and opening a bag or, it's just, I don't think that is what people want, and you wouldn't be able to create a mock every day, would you? Yeah. No, so I don't think that works.
I think it's from when it turns from hobby into chore or just trying to think of the word.
Chore is probably the right word. I mean, there are the odd days where you don't get up and feel like making a video. Maybe you have to, but imagine you had to do that every day. I think that would be quite a common occurrence.
Yeah. So if you could collaborate with other YouTubers, even non-Lego YouTubers, who would you pick and what collaboration would it be? And that's from
Ooh,
Lego Artisan.
that's an interesting
I'd
question.
like you to do an ASMR one with some of the ASMR people I like.
What, just clunking Lego bricks together? I think
don't
that'd be a
know.
bit dull.
I don't know how they do it. Whispers Red ASMR.
I'd pick Jang, because Jang's a legend, and we'd do a build off or something, and then critique and look at each other's builds or something like that. That'd be great. Though having said that, I get no offers whatsoever to do any. Not that I've tried to make contact with other YouTubers either. To be honest, I'm kind of happy doing my own thing. I'm very open to doing collaborations, but some of them are a bit too sort of high energy for me, I think. You see some of the sort of chats, I'm like, whoa, I don't think I'd want to be part of that. But yeah, Jang's on about my sort of level, isn't he? Sort of, methodical,
But yeah,
care, attention to detail.
You'd be the one bringing the energy to that video.
Might be. That's a bit
I mean,
rude.
I'm sorry, Jang. I didn't mean,
Hey,
much respect to you, Jang.
And for those who are criticising my progress on the fairground, right? And I know you mean it with love, but his what is it, planetary defence base? I've been waiting
still not done that?
3 years and he still hasn't done that.
Goodness.
Yeah, he's ground to a halt. I don't know what's going on in Jangland.
Well, he did buy all of the mountain pieces in the world. So
Oh,
maybe,
now I'm doing the
maybe
same.
he's just gone out with them. Right. Would you ever consider giving up your job and turning this into a business? Maybe moving to a new house where you could open up Brick Nottingham to paying visitors and run Lego workshops?
No. That's the quick answer. Do you want the quick answer? I don't
that's
like
fine.
I don't like any of those elements particularly. I don't really want a museum.
No, I mean, I think it would be fantastic.
I like building and designing things and sharing them and getting comments and stuff. I mean, what I'm doing right now is for me, really. I'm not doing this for the views or the subscribers or the subscriber numbers, I mean, or the plaudits. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
So this is how, I want to do it. So I'm glad that other people enjoy it.
Yeah.
but and that's important to me. But I'm not trying to become a public commodity, which is partly why I don't sort of show my face. It's not because I'm shy, it's because it's about the Lego for me. It's not about me. I don't want to be, hey, look at me. I want to be, hey, look at what I built.
Yeah, no, that's very, very good. Right, and this is from I'm going to call him Boeing Rich. Which videos had the biggest impact on your channel's success throughout this journey? Rich says, my journey started with your white passenger train. And I think that's probably your biggest video.
By a long way. And you can, when you can look at your own analytics, you can see which videos have generated the most new subscribers. And that one's off the chart compared with the others. I mean, it is directly proportional to number of views, I suppose. And it's kind of a point when you get discovered, and it was about then, and just floods of people come in. I was making more than 100 subscribers a day, for weeks. And now, it's back to sort of 20 or something like that, even though I'm bigger. So you'd sort of think it would be at a higher rate. I mean, at that point I thought, right, I've cracked it.
You were like, I'll be at 100,000 in a year.
Yeah. And you're like, no, it would take me about the decade to get to 100,000 at this rate. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's generally train videos that seem to get vast amounts of exposure, but I don't get YouTube at all. I don't think a lot of people do with the algorithm and stuff. I mean, they say helpful things like, we showed this video 100,000 times and 10,000 people clicked on it. So you think, okay, 1 in 10. And then we showed this one to 10,000 people and 1,000 people clicked on it. And you're like, well, that's also 10%. So surely if you'd shown that one as much as you showed that one, it might have got this, but you didn't. So what? So it doesn't make any sense to me at all as to what they sort of push and what they don't. And you see videos with quite low creative content, let's say, getting 70,000 in an hour or something, and that train video, my biggest ones, I think at 350,000 or something like that, and it's been out 2 years. So I can't really moan because there's loads of really good Lego YouTubers who've got smaller subscriber numbers and lower sort of circulation than me, and they're producing really good content as well. So it's just the way YouTube works, but it can be frustrating, and smaller YouTubers do occasionally get frustrated. And I feel that frustration. It's quite annoying.
I think if you thought about it too much, you would go mad. Because I know there
Exactly.
have been times where you've been very frustrated and you feel that you're working really hard and that your
Well, you're
content's
frustrated
being
when
well
something you
received.
think's gold doesn't really go that far.
Yeah.
And how could you not be frustrated? That's human. But I think that's why I now, or always have in a way, tried to focus on what I want to do and what's good for me, as opposed to trying to, guess what YouTube wants or what people who just click on things want. And I refuse to do clickbait or stuff like that, sensationalist stuff, because, well,
It's not who you
it's
are.
not who I am. And it's not what you want to do in the long run.
Right, final section. We have
Right,
got there.
quickfire.
I told you there were a lot of questions.
Yeah, there were, but it's good.
And these are quickfire, so
Yep.
we need snappiness.
Yep.
Robin, snappy.
Let's do this.
So from Just Add Bricks, and quite a few people sort of asked this sort of theme of question. So hypothetically, if you were to save one build or building from your Lego city in the event of a house fire, apologies for dark question, which one would it be?
I think it has to be fast food corner, just because of the 10,000 subs thing, and I haven't got a badge from Lego, so I need something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm equally proud of many other builds, but I suppose that one's just because I'd have to think quickly, wouldn't I? So I'll just grab that.
And it would be hardest to replicate because it's difficult to get those parts.
Well, I could technically get the build file back from Lego, but yeah.
Well, no, but I mean in sourcing the parts.
Well, no, it's not that bad. Those windows, they are available. They're just expensive now.
Well,
Yeah.
making a fuss about nothing. Fine. Right. In your opinion, which is the best video you've ever made? Not necessarily meaning the best build.
Ooh.
I know my answer to this one.
Oh, okay. That'll be interesting. Okay, so I've got probably two springing to mind. One was my very short Halloween scary story, which did incredibly badly, I must say. Even though it's 2 minutes long, I think people saw Halloween, I'm not into that. Or they saw Story, they thought, I'm not into that. I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was quite good. It was very creative. Took me ages to make about 2 minutes of footage, but it was really good. I thought.
That's my one.
Is that your one? All right.
I had no idea that you were so good at just doing funny voices.
Yeah, and I just
It was
and I
very
scripted it all, and I had to do it several times and stuff. It was very hard to do. So I think that one was really quite good. Though I'm not very good at editing compared with some people doing glorious editing, all these special effects. I don't know how they do it, quite frankly. I need to go on a course. My other one was the SSP one with the conversion of the police modular.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, because I had all the voiceovers of the SSP, editing it sort of propaganda style, talking over me. And I tried to do a sort of a Trump sort of style voice on top. Anyway, I really enjoyed doing that. And quite frankly, I think that's really funny. It makes me laugh, and I did it, so I think that's another one.
I do like it where you sort of call me in occasionally and say, is this awful? Like your Scooby-Doo voice. And that was your Scooby-Doo voice was very good as well.
I wonder whether to include silly things like that, because I'm a child at heart.
Is it worth getting a decibel reading on how loud the Lego room is when all the motors are running? Now, I can say from experience that if you are on a Zoom or Microsoft Teams call and you're in the room next to the Lego room when everything's on, people can sort of hear it.
That's interesting. I would say it's not actually that loud. I think the mic picks up that sort of noise as being really loud, but it's not like ow my ears or anything, but it is definitely very chuntery. I mean, I'm more in a state of panic because basically any of these things could break or derail or something, which is why I like to have a section on at a time rather than what I did in my last tour, which just have absolutely everything on at once. It takes me about 5 minutes of crawling under tables and stuff just to switch everything on. Because there's that many motorized things in the city. It's absolutely crazy.
It's not a glamorous hobby, this, is it?
Well, behind the scenes isn't glamorous. I portray a glamorous exterior.
You try to portray
I try to portray a glamorous
exterior.
exterior.
Lego cargo trains or Lego passenger trains?
It's got to be cargo for variety, though my favourite train is a passenger train. So try and work that one out.
Which one's your favourite train?
Well, technically, it's a white fast passenger train,
Not the
60051. But my one is beautiful, isn't it?
I think it is.
The Flying Knotsman, those carriages are brilliant. I've got to say, one of my favourite scenes is the murder Poirot scene inside that. Another thing you can't really see.
Yeah,
But it is awesome.
It's good.
And nobody liked my Tom Shady, the American footballer joke. Well, one person commented on it. I thought Tom Shady was a brilliant Pardon the name. Anyway, whatever.
No.
These little jokes that don't land.
Well, you already have one goat in your city. You don't need to.
Yay. A good one.
Thank you. Mrs. Hood's got it. What is your favourite minifigure?
Ooh, I'm going to say Antimatter, because he's on his flying dish and he's just smashed through the brick Nottingham post. And he's very cool. And his face even glows in the dark.
My favourite in your city, just because it makes me laugh, is the vomiting pig.
Vomiting pig, he's quite fun, yeah.
When are you building the University of Nottingham?
Of Brick Nottingham? I don't know. I'm a little underwhelmed at that because it's sort of based on the Hogwarts sets, and basically 1 million people have made 1 million Hogwarts now. So it's a bit underwhelming. But it's earmarked for the table that's going to be the double height one that's sort of where all the rides are currently. So it's kind of one of those things that it has to be after the fairground's done.
Cool. And this final one, I mean, this doesn't have to be quick fire because this I think is a lovely question to finish on. This from Andrew Field, who again is a great friend of the channel. When Lego experts look back in years to come, what would you like them to say the legacy of Robin Hood bricks will be?
Oh, that's nice. Well, if it's the sort of channel thing, I think it was just having really good fun. That's what I'd like to think. But if it was about what I've actually done in the Lego City, I think what most people comment on is all the different levels. And the amount of cities that are still done on a pancake basis, or they have one level, one section that's sort of raised so trains can go underneath it. But that means it's sort of about 16 brick height higher. It doesn't look natural, and it's really impossible to transition between the two. Some of my brick height differences are 1 brick, and some 5, some 6, and so on. And it just adds so much. So getting creative with the different levels, I think, is the one thing that I've still done way different to virtually all other Lego cities that I'm aware of on such a scale. So I think that's probably the thing that they might look back on.
The thing I love, and particularly because one of my friends shared a video of her son being engrossed in one of your videos. I just love the community that you've got, and I think the fact that you've clearly inspired a lot of people to enjoy and try things, and
you're right. That's the legacy of the channel that maybe not Lego experts would look back on, but that we enjoy. It's all the stuff that people have sent in on email,
the letters,
the letters, all the cities that I've inspired. I love it when people just have either completely copied a build or use it to inspire one of their own. All of that fills me with great warmth, which is our community, really. And that's why I think this community is fantastic. It is quality over quantity after all. So I don't really worry about my subscriber figure anymore, because it is quality rather than quantity. And viewing figures, I mean, I do get annoyed if a particular video gets 3,000 when I think it should have been a 10,000 or something, because I just want more people to enjoy it, essentially. But it's not because of chasing money or chasing popularity as such. So but that warmth of community is fantastic, and that's why I love all the ideas that people send in. And you genuinely do continue to make all of my builds that little bit better, and added all together, it just makes it a real fantastic thing. And I know you love receiving a bedoing and going for that. The amount of people that comment, I got my first bedoing. I mean, that's something that really fills me with warmth as well. So long may it continue.
And that's it for questions. So thank you everyone for, I think, a really super set. And for anyone who I didn't read their question out, really sorry, but thank you.
It's been pretty long already.
We'll do this again another time.
Sure we will. Well, thank you as well, Mrs. Hood. And thank you, all of you, for listening, for all of your support, help and suggestions. And here's to the next 400 videos. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, or listening in this case. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome Lego videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be continuing with the cargo area on Monday, a haul on Wednesday that you can contribute to in future if you want to by using this address. And then on Friday, maybe we might get to the fairground. I don't know. We'll have to see. But until all of that, see you
See you.